pregnant wife, found out her millionaire husband bought a house for the mistress, shocked to reveal Mariana Ellington had never questioned her life's golden veneer. From a distance, she and her husband, Joshua, looked like the perfect couple, wealthy, influential, and expecting their first child. But one afternoon, a single phone call shattered that illusion in an instant. A concerned friend called with a shocking tip. Joshua had secretly purchased a lavish home for another woman. As the words sank in, Mariana felt her heart tighten. The life she believed was stable began to crack. In this story of hidden agendas, fiery confrontations, and shocking revelations, one woman's world unravels, and she must find a way to rise again. Mariana's life changed the moment she learned she was pregnant. It wasn't just the promise of a child that elevated her spirits, though that was significant. It was also the way Joshua became even more attentive, doting on her, ensuring she had everything she needed. Once a year, they traveled to Paris for Joshua's business meetings, and upon finding out she was pregnant, he upgraded them to first-class seats, reserved the penthouse suite at Hotel de Crillon, and walked around the City of Light with his hand protectively on her back. To anyone observing, they were the picture of success and happiness. The Ellingtons' wealth was no small matter. Joshua had built his fortune in tech investments, once sharing a panel with Bill Gates during an innovation summit. He proudly recounted how they spoke about climate technology's future, while he never claimed friendship. The anecdote did wonders for Joshua's reputation back home. Mariana, having grown up in modest circumstances, frequently marveled at how smoothly she had transitioned into a world of high society galas and charity events. But as the pregnancy progressed, small fissures began appearing in their seemingly perfect life. Joshua came home later each evening. Sometimes he'd fumble with his phone in front of her, quickly ending mysterious calls if she asked about them. The warmth that once radiated from him turned sporadic, replaced by bursts of tension. At first, Mariana dismissed it all as pressure from work. After all, deals could fall through, projects failed, but little did she know these changes were the tremors before the quake. Even before the phone call, Mariana had an inkling that something was off. She'd catch glimpses of Joshua reading messages on his phone, face creased in concern, his gaze darting up to see if she was watching. Still, she convinced herself that men of his stature often juggled complicated negotiations, but intuition kept pricking at her. It was during one of her afternoon naps that her best friend, Angela Carter, called. Angela rarely sounded serious, but her voice that day was hushed, almost urgent. Angela worked as a realtor in Beverly Hills, where the Ellingtons lived, and her job connected her to a vast network of brokers, developers, and property agents. "Mariana," Angela began, "I don't know how to say this, but you need to know. I got wind that Joshua bought a property on Cloverdale Lane. He closed on it discreetly, all in cash. It's under a trust. Ellington Holdings too." At first, Mariana laughed. "We have Ellington Holdings, yes, but there's no woo. Maybe it's for a business venture?" Her mind tried to rationalize. Their accountant had never mentioned a second corporate entity. Angela's voice trembled. "That's not the part that's bothering me. I also heard from a friend who handles interior design that there's a young woman, someone named Nicole, already staying there. And rumor says Joshua visits her." Mariana froze. Time felt suspended, the air around her heavy. Before she knew it, tears ran down her cheeks. She had to see it with her own eyes, she thought, heart pounding. That evening, Mariana tried to remain calm. She sat in the grand living room, sipping mint tea, waiting for Joshua to return from work. He arrived around 9, tired yet guarded. For a moment, she studied his face, the subtle lines around his eyes, the slight twitch in his jaw. He gave her a polite kiss on the forehead and quickly walked upstairs. Usually he would pause to ask about her day, especially now that she was pregnant. The brush-off deepened her suspicion. Summoning courage she didn't know she had, she decided to follow him upstairs. She found Joshua in his study, drumming his fingers on a pile of papers while glancing at his phone. When he saw her, he looked startled. "Hey, sweetheart, is everything okay? You look pale." Mariana forced a small smile. "Just had a bit of a dizzy spell. Thought I should come talk to you." She paused, searching his eyes. Then, drawing a measured breath, she asked, "Joshua, did you purchase any property on Cloverdale Lane recently?" His reaction was instantaneous. His body went rigid, and the color drained from his face. For a fraction of a second, she saw alarm in his eyes before he masked it with an easy grin. "Cloverdale Lane? I might have had my eye on some investments," he answered too quickly. "You know how it is. Business expansions. Why do you ask?" Her pulse pounded. She wanted to scream the accusations swirling in her mind, but she needed more proof. "Just curious," she said softly, then turned away. The tension thickened, but she kept her emotions at bay. She vowed to uncover the truth. Over the next few days, Mariana found herself tormented by a toxic mix of suspicion and guilt. Part of her felt disloyal for doubting her husband, yet she couldn't ignore Angela's tip. Each morning, she woke up with a knot in her stomach. Every time Joshua left the house, she fought the urge to beg him to stay, to plead with him, to reveal whatever was gnawing at him. She confided in Angela once more. "I need proof," Mariana whispered into the phone. "I can't accuse him based on a rumor. Can you check the deed or property records?" Angela hesitated. "Legally, I shouldn't be peeking at confidential documents. But let me see what I can do." Days later, Angela returned with more details. Indeed, Ellington Holdings too had purchased a single-family home on Cloverdale Lane 3 weeks ago. A local contractor had been hired to do interior renovations, specifically at the request of someone named Nicole Rivers. That name, Nicole Rivers, clung to Mariana's mind like a pesky echo. She pictured a young, attractive woman, perhaps in her late 20s, living in that secret home, a woman her husband visited. The mental image alone sickened her. Determined, Mariana decided to see the house for herself. On a bright Monday morning, she drove to Cloverdale Lane. Heart hammering, she parked half a block away. She watched as deliveries arrived: new furniture, fresh flowers, even a baby grand piano. It all pointed to a life of comfort and luxury, paid for by Joshua. She felt the first raw sting of betrayal lodging itself deep in her heart. Mariana returned home that afternoon, feeling as though she had been hollowed out. Memories of Joshua's devotion during their early days replayed in her mind. He'd once surprised her with a grand piano of her own when she mentioned wanting to learn. Now, she watched a similar instrument being delivered to another woman's doorstep. The thought made her feel ill. That night, she couldn't bring herself to face Joshua at dinner. Instead, she locked herself in their master bedroom, feigning exhaustion. Joshua had a business dinner anyway, so her absence went unquestioned. She paced around, tears staining her cheeks, questions swirling in her head. Who was Nicole Rivers? How long had this affair been going on? Was it even an affair, or was it something else? Unnerved and pregnant, she worried for her baby's health. Stress could harm the child. She placed a hand on her belly, silently apologizing for the turmoil. A wave of maternal resolve washed over her. She needed the truth even if it broke her. The next morning she devised a plan. She would hire a private investigator. Mariana had watched enough detective shows to know that investigators could uncover secrets hidden behind closed doors. She found a reputable one named Louis Jameson. Over the phone, Louis sounded professional, reassuring. "I've handled many high-profile cases," he said. "If there's something to find, I'll find it." Mariana swallowed her pride and gave him every detail. Joshua's routine, the property on Cloverdale Lane, Nicole Rivers' name. That day, she stepped into a world of suspicion from which she wasn't sure she could ever return. Lewis Jameson worked quickly. Within a week, he delivered pictures to Mariana's home. Gripping them in trembling hands, she saw images of Joshua entering the Cloverdale house at odd hours. The angle from behind the hedge wasn't perfect, but it was unmistakably him. In some frames, Nicole Rivers young, stylish, her long black hair cascading over her shoulders, stood at the front door, greeting Joshua with a wide smile. There was a telling closeness between them. But even more shocking was the snapshot that caught Joshua's hand cupping Nicole's cheek in what looked like an intimate gesture. It was the image that shattered all illusions. Mariana's eyes welled with tears. She was pregnant with his child, yet he spent private time with another woman. Confrontation felt inevitable, but how? She needed to gather her strength, to brace for the heartbreak and the possible fight ahead. She considered every scenario, cornering him at home, waiting until he left for the Cloverdale house, or even calling Nicole directly. Rage flared at the thought of that mistress living so comfortably, courtesy of Joshua's wealth. A house was no small expense. Before she could decide, her doorbell rang. She opened it to find her father, Richard Ramirez, standing there. They had spoken on the phone recently, and she had confided some of her suspicions. His weathered face showed deep concern. He'd driven hours to be by her side. "My little girl," he said, voice quavering, "tell me everything." And so she did, tears and bitterness spilling over as she recounted every damning detail. Richard Ramirez was a proud man who'd raised Mariana in a humble household, teaching her resilience and love. Seeing his daughter in pain enraged him, but he kept a calm exterior. He listened patiently to her story, occasionally asking questions. By the end, he was seething. "We need to talk to him," he said, voice tight. "No matter what, you must confront him with what you know." That evening, Richard insisted on staying in the house. "I'm not leaving you alone," he declared. Mariana was grateful for his presence. She felt less vulnerable. When Joshua finally arrived, he looked startled to see his father-in-law waiting. Polite greetings were exchanged, but the tension was so thick it nearly suffocated the room. Without preamble, Richard stood and stared Joshua down. "Son, I'm concerned about my daughter's well-being," he said, his voice resolute. "I hope you can explain why you own a second home where another woman is living." Joshua's expression flickered, shock, fear, and then a defensive set of his jaw. He tried to laugh it off. "I don't know what you've heard, but don't lie to me," Richard roared, slamming his hand on the oak coffee table. "She deserves the truth, especially now that she's carrying your child." Mariana watched Joshua's composure crumble. His eyes darted between her and her father. Fear spread across his features. It was the first time Mariana had seen him so cornered. She held her breath, waiting for his response. Every muscle in her body coiled in anticipation of the truth, no matter how ugly. Joshua's shoulders sagged. He sank into the nearest armchair, his face haunted. "All right," he said quietly. "I won't lie. I did buy that property. And Nicole Rivers, she's someone I've known for a while." His tone was brittle, as though every word tasted of shame. Mariana's heart pounded in her ears. She didn't interrupt, determined to hear the full explanation. Joshua exhaled, pressing his fingertips to his temples. "About a year ago, I reconnected with an old friend from college, Nicole. We started talking, and at first, it was just platonic. We had some business ideas. She's an entrepreneur in the design industry. One thing led to another, and we got involved. At that admission, Mariana felt as though she might faint. Her father reached out to steady her. Joshua's eyes, rimmed with regret, flicked to Richard, then back to Mariana. "Please, let me explain more. I know I messed up. Nicole got pregnant." A collective gasp rose in the room. "But she lost the baby earlier this year, and the whole situation messed with my head. I I felt responsible for her well-being, so I helped her with the house to give her some sense of security. Mariana stared at him in stunned disbelief. You were having an affair? She rasped. You were planning a life with her? It's not like that, Joshua protested. I was torn. I wanted to take care of her, but I never wanted to leave you. Then you got pregnant, and everything became more complicated. As the words sank in, Mariana's heartbreak morphed into fury. 1,000 questions erupted in her mind, but one blazed to the forefront. How could he betray her like this? For what felt like an eternity, nobody spoke. Mariana's father clenched and unclenched his fists in barely contained anger. Mariana, tears sliding silently down her cheeks, finally found her voice. You lied to me, she said, her voice a trembling whisper. All these trips, all the secrecy, my God, Joshua, I'm carrying our child, and you were supporting another woman in a secret house. Joshua's eyes filled with tears. I never wanted to hurt you, Mariana. The first was caught between shame and fear. Nicole, I thought she needed my financial support. After her miscarriage, I felt guilty, and then you became pregnant. I was at war with myself. Richard advanced, voice thick with controlled rage. What about your responsibility to my daughter and that unborn baby? You have to choose where your loyalty lies. Mariana buried her face in her hands, shaking. The sense of betrayal pulsed through every nerve. She had spent countless nights planning her future with Joshua, decorating a nursery, picking out baby names. Now, she was plunged into a reality where he had divided his affections and finances between her and another woman. Slowly she stood, wiping her tears. Joshua, you need to leave tonight, she finally said, voice laced with quiet determination. I can't look at you right now. He stared, stricken, as if slapped. He opened his mouth to protest, but then nodded in resignation. Gathering his keys, he cast one last pleading look at her and left. The sound of the door closing echoed through the silent house, marking the end of life as they had known it. That night, Mariana barely slept. Her father stayed by her side, ensuring she ate something and took her prenatal vitamins. When dawn broke, Mariana felt like a ghost in her own home. Photographs of her and Joshua on the mantel mocked her with illusions of marital bliss. She couldn't bring herself to look at them. By midday, her phone buzzed incessantly with messages from Joshua. She let them go unanswered until one text appeared. I'm truly sorry. Please let me explain more. For the baby's sake, give me a chance. Tears blurred her vision. A bitter laugh escaped her. He was worried about their baby's well-being now, after spending months deceiving her. Angela called to check on her. I can't believe this, she said, her voice trembling with empathy. Mariana, you need to think about yourself and the child now. What do you want to do? Do you want a separation? A divorce? The thought of divorce was harrowing. Despite the betrayal, a part of Mariana still yearned for the man she'd fallen in love with. But how could she ever trust him again? Her father, sensing her turmoil, offered a gentle suggestion. Mariana, maybe it's time to seek legal counsel, just to understand your options. I know it's overwhelming, but knowledge is power. Reluctantly, Mariana agreed. She scheduled an appointment with a top family law attorney, Elaine Robbins, known for handling high-profile divorces. The mere act of making that call felt monumental. In the midst of her devastation, she had to protect herself and her unborn child. Elaine Robbins worked in a gleaming high-rise in downtown Los Angeles, her office reflecting the success of her clientele. When Mariana entered, she felt self-conscious in her simple maternity dress, overshadowed by the polished interior. But Elaine greeted her warmly, guiding her to a plush armchair. Tell me everything, Elaine said, pen poised over a legal pad. Mariana, voice unsteady, recounted the entire saga, discovering Joshua's secret house, his affair with Nicole Rivers, and his conflicting claims of guilt and responsibility. At one point, Elaine raised her eyebrows. He admitted all this to you in front of your father? Mariana nodded, her throat tight. I don't know if I can face the idea of a broken family, but I also can't imagine staying with someone who betrayed me like this. Elaine tapped her pen thoughtfully. We have multiple avenues to consider. You could file for divorce immediately on grounds of adultery, or you could try a legal separation while you figure things out. Given Joshua's wealth, we'll want to examine all financial records, especially that Trust used to buy the Cloverdale property. If he's hiding more assets, we should know. In the meantime, we can request spousal support and child support arrangements. The mention of support made Mariana's stomach twist. She had married Joshua for love, not money. But now the practicalities of raising a child without him loomed. I need time, she whispered. Elaine nodded, sliding a card across the desk. My advice? Protect yourself. Think about your baby. But we'll move at your pace. Returning home, Mariana felt weighed down by legal jargon and the terrifying realization of how complicated her life had become. Her father, sensing her fatigue, encouraged her to rest. Remember, you're not alone, he said, patting her shoulder gently. Mariana attempted a weak smile, but her heart was heavy. That evening, after her father had gone to bed, she found herself alone in the dimly lit living room. Joshua's absence was palpable in the quiet hum of the air conditioner, in the faint echo of footsteps that weren't there. Despite the betrayal, her heart mourned the loss of companionship. Her phone buzzed again, another message from Joshua. This time, a simple, I love you. I'll do anything to make this right. Mariana's anger flared. If he truly loved her, why had he put her through this nightmare? Yet she couldn't deny a small part of her that still cared, that remembered how he once cradled her face and whispered forever. But trust wasn't a switch one could flip on and off. With trembling hands, she texted back, I need answers, Joshua. Real answers. Almost immediately, her phone rang. She stared at the screen, debating whether to ignore it. But she pressed the green icon, and Joshua's voice came through, thick with emotion. Mariana, please, can we meet somewhere? Let me explain everything properly. There are things I haven't told you. Her silence lasted several beats before she replied, tomorrow at the lawyer's office. I need a mediator. He agreed, sounding both terrified and relieved. In that moment, Mariana realized she was bracing for revelations that could shake her world even further. The following afternoon, Mariana and Joshua sat across from each other in Elaine Robbins's modern conference room. The panoramic windows offered a view of the city skyline, but neither paid attention. The tension between them buzzed like a live wire. Elaine began, voice steady. Joshua, we're here to clarify the situation with the Cloverdale property and Miss Nicole Rivers. Mariana wants the truth. She leaned back, observing him carefully. Joshua clasped his hands. I've told you the basics, he said, casting a haunted look at Mariana. Nicole and I had an affair. She claimed she was pregnant, so I felt it was my duty to provide for her. But there's something else. His throat bobbed. I discovered later that Nicole might have lied about the pregnancy altogether. She showed me a sonogram, but then she claimed a miscarriage. I never saw medical records, though. Mariana reeled, confusion sparking anger. You're saying she was never pregnant? Why would she do that? Joshua's jaw tensed. She wanted money. I suspect she used the pregnancy story to get me to buy the house. Then, after she supposedly lost the baby, I felt guilty. She played on that guilt. I gave her more money for medical bills I never verified. It was stupid and reckless, but I was scared. I didn't want my indiscretions to ruin our marriage, so I tried to handle it alone. Elaine eyed him. Are you implying that Miss Rivers extorted you? That's exactly what I'm implying, Joshua replied grimly. He looked at Mariana, tears in his eyes. I was a fool, but I never intended to leave you. I just made terrible choices trying to cover one mistake with another. Mariana stared, her mind spinning. Her husband was not only an adulterer, but potentially a victim of a con. This was a twist she never saw coming. Mariana felt a wave of conflicting emotions, relief that Nicole might not have been pregnant, fury that Joshua had risked everything, and disbelief that he had fallen for a potential scam. Elaine seemed to share her skepticism. "Have you confronted Nicole about this?" she asked. Joshua shook his head. "I've tried calling her recently, but she won't pick up. Last time we spoke, she hinted that if I tried to cut her off financially, she'd expose our affair publicly. I panicked." Elaine nodded, face impassive. "This changes the legal situation. If Nicole is extorting you, we have grounds to involve law enforcement. However, that also risks public scandal, especially given your wealth. Is that what you want, Joshua?" He hesitated, eyes darting to Mariana. "I don't want to drag this out, but I'll do whatever it takes to protect Mariana and our baby and to make amends." Mariana found herself speaking up, voice wavering. "I need time to process this. Part of me wants to cut ties completely, but another part, I need to understand if he's being honest now. After everything, how can I be sure?" Elaine offered a sympathetic nod. "We can arrange for mediation sessions." "Joshua, you'll have to provide complete financial transparency, show all transactions related to Nicole, any hidden accounts, anything." "Mariana, you decide how you want to proceed based on what he reveals." The conference ended with a promise from Joshua to gather financial documents for Elaine's review. As he and Mariana parted, neither knew what the future held. They had stepped into a quagmire of secrets, lies, and looming scandal. Days turned into a blur of paperwork and soul-searching. Elaine's firm scrutinized Joshua's finances, unearthing evidence of multiple wire transfers to Nicole Rivers. Some were substantial enough to purchase designer furniture, pay for lavish vacations, and even finance a small business venture under Nicole's name. Mariana vacillated between anger and a strange pity for Joshua. Her father's fury had yet to cool, but he respected her need to find a resolution on her own terms. Late one night, unable to sleep, she finally replied to one of Joshua's apologetic texts. "I want to see you. Come to the house tomorrow morning, alone." The next day, she sat at the dining table, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea as Joshua walked in. He looked uncharacteristically disheveled, dark circles under his eyes. "Mariana," he began, voice husky with remorse. "I've told you everything. I'm ready to sign over any portion of my assets if it means you'll consider staying. I just can't lose you." Mariana swallowed hard. She pictured the Cloverdale house, Nicole's smug face. "You broke my trust," she said, each word deliberate. "You need to end that arrangement with Nicole, whatever it takes, and take responsibility if she tries to retaliate. I won't live under the same roof if you're still supporting another woman." He nodded, tears shining in his eyes. "I've already instructed my lawyer to issue a cease and desist. If she tries to blackmail me further, I'll go to the authorities." The raw honesty in his voice chipped away at Mariana's wall of anger. But could she truly forgive? The moment Joshua mentioned turning to the authorities, Mariana felt a surge of anxiety. Dragging law enforcement into their private drama could unleash a media circus. After all, Joshua was known in influential circles, occasionally photographed at galas with political leaders. The press would devour the story of a millionaire's affair and potential blackmail. Still, she recognized they had few options. She paused, pressing her hand to her baby bump. The slightest flutter reminded her of the fragile new life at stake. "I don't want our baby to grow up in a world defined by scandal," she murmured. "But I can't live under a cloud of secrecy either." Joshua leaned forward, gently placing his hand over hers. She tensed at his touch, a reminder of what they once had. "I'm all in," he said. "I'll stand up to Nicole. We'll handle any fallout together, if you'll let me. But I need you to believe I'm done lying." His pleading eyes pulled at her heartstrings. Despite the anger, she found a sliver of longing for the good times, for the shared dream of raising a child. Slowly she nodded, though tears brimmed in her eyes. "I'm not saying I forgive you yet, but for our baby's sake, I'm willing to see if we can salvage this." Relief washed over Joshua's face. "Thank you," he whispered. "I promise I'll earn back your trust." As they sat in the dining room, an unspoken acknowledgement hung between them. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but perhaps, just perhaps, they had a chance to find their way back to each other or decide they never could. Over the next week, Joshua took swift action. He severed all financial ties with Nicole Rivers, cancelling automatic transfers and revoking her access to the Cloverdale House Trust. Through his lawyer, he sent formal letters demanding the return of any funds misappropriated under false pretenses. The house itself was listed for sale, though no immediate buyer emerged. It was a symbolic step that mattered to Mariana, closing that chapter of deception. Meanwhile, Mariana, guided by Elaine, prepared for the worst. If Nicole retaliated with lurid details to tabloids, they'd need a crisis management plan. Angela Carter, ever the supportive friend, suggested using her real estate connections to keep a close watch on the Cloverdale property, ensuring Nicole didn't try to sabotage it. "She might be desperate if her funds dry up," Angela warned. To complicate matters, Mariana's pregnancy advanced, and with it came physical changes that demanded her attention. Doctor's appointments, prenatal classes, and the emotional roller coaster of impending motherhood. Each ultrasound reminded her of the life she was bringing into the world, a life she wanted to shield from public scandal and heartbreak. Then one afternoon, a package arrived at their doorstep. Inside, Mariana found a typed note. "You think you can wash your hands clean. I have proof of everything. If I don't get what I deserve, you'll regret it." No signature, but the implication was clear. It had to be from Nicole. The note was accompanied by photos of Joshua and Nicole in various intimate moments, including dates at luxury resorts. Mariana's heart sank. It was a stark reminder that the storm wasn't over yet. The moment Mariana read the threatening note, a wave of dread crashed over her. She knew Joshua had tried to end things, but Nicole clearly wasn't going away quietly. Heart-pounding, she carried the package into Joshua's office, where he was poring over financial statements. Wordlessly, she placed the note and photos in front of him. His eyes scanned the images, and his expression hardened. "This is worse than I expected," he muttered. "She must have been collecting these for months. She's definitely set on blackmail." Mariana's voice shook. "What if she leaks these to the press? Our families, our child's future." Everything could be tainted by this. Joshua stood abruptly, pulling Mariana into a tight embrace. She stiffened at first, but then relaxed. "We'll handle it," he said, determination fueling his words. "I won't let her control us. If it means going to the police with the extortion evidence, so be it." A pang of fear hit Mariana. The idea of press coverage, tabloids plastering her face on magazines, was nauseating. Yet she recognized that cowering would only embolden Nicole. "All right," she whispered, eyes meeting Joshua's. "Let's call Elaine and see what our legal options are." They arranged an emergency meeting at Elaine's office, handing over the package as proof of Nicole's threats. "We can pursue a restraining order," Elaine suggested, "and file extortion charges if she demands money. But be prepared, this could become public." As they left the law firm, Mariana felt an odd sense of unity with Joshua. Despite the pain, they were finally facing this crisis as a team. But she worried if their fragile alliance could withstand the fire that Nicole was about to unleash. News travels fast in elite circles, and for a couple as prominent as Mariana and Joshua Ellington, it often seems to travel at the speed of light. Within mere days of Nicole Rivers' threats, the rumor mill began churning out sensational tidbits about Joshua's clandestine affair and the secret house on Cloverdale Lane. It started with whispers in exclusive country clubs and high-end salons, then spread to the tabloids, where it exploded into bold headlines: millionaire Joshua Ellington's secret mistress and lavish love nest exposed. Mariana first learned of the media onslaught through an old acquaintance who phoned her in disbelief. "I'm so sorry to bring this up," the woman said hesitantly, "but I've been hearing the most terrible gossip. Do you know anything about it?" That call was followed by a barrage of others' friends, distant relatives, even casual socialites seeking confirmation or offering their condolences. By mid-morning, paparazzi had gathered outside the Ellingtons' mansion, cameras flashing at the slightest movement behind the gated entrance. In the past, Mariana had always found a certain detached amusement in reading about others' scandals. Now, with her own name splashed across gossip columns, she felt her stomach twist in anxiety every time she glanced at her phone. A nauseating blend of fear and anger coursed through her veins. She was pregnant. For heaven's sake, did none of these reporters have even a shred of empathy? Worse still, Nicole Rivers seemed to relish her newfound spotlight. Rumors circulated that she was going around West Hollywood, venting loudly about being dumped by Joshua. Some bystanders claimed she flaunted receipts, photos of plane tickets, restaurant bills, and expensive gifts supposedly paid for by Joshua. The lines between fact and exaggeration blurred, but the effect was the same: an ever-growing scandal that fueled the tabloids like dry kindling to a raging fire. Fearing for their privacy and reputation, Joshua and Mariana huddled with Elaine Robbins and a crisis communications specialist. They strategized about potential responses, drafting statements to counter Nicole's allegations. Elaine advised them to remain measured and not engage in a back-and-forth media war that would further amplify Nicole's story. "We have evidence of her attempts at blackmail," Elaine reminded them. "But once we go public with it, things could escalate. We must be precise in our legal approach." Mariana's father, Richard, hovered protectively around his daughter. He had always been proud yet watchful, and this scandal only strengthened his determination to shield her. Whenever Mariana felt overwhelmed by paparazzi lurking outside or by the hateful messages on social media, Richard reminded her that the people who truly mattered knew her character. Nevertheless, Mariana's stress levels soared. Her obstetrician sternly warned her about the risks of elevated blood pressure during pregnancy. Joshua, for his part, was constantly on the phone with investors and business partners, trying to salvage ongoing projects threatened by the negative publicity. He watched helplessly as some pulled out of deals, citing the unpredictability of scandal. Mariana observed him from across the room, tense, exhausted, and remorseful. It struck her how swiftly their once stable life had unraveled. Even so, she couldn't forget that he had chosen to keep secrets. By the end of that tumultuous week, Mariana realized that silence wouldn't protect them forever. The tabloids wouldn't stop until they had more fuel or until the Ellingtons fought back. Yet deep in her heart, she feared that no matter how they fought, the damage might already be beyond repair. Chapter 20, extended version, approximately 500 words. The storm intensified on a Friday morning when a particularly salacious tabloid article took aim at every aspect of Joshua Ellington's life. The headline blazed across websites and social media: "Ellington Empire on the brink, scandal, secret mistress, and baby drama." By noon, the story had been amplified by countless blogs, gossip channels, and online forums. News outlets that once covered Joshua's philanthropic endeavors were now focusing on his alleged double life, painting him as a manipulative tycoon who juggled two women, one pregnant and one scorned. For Mariana, the stress reached an all-time high. She barely slept the night before, haunted by nightmares of camera flashes and microphones shoved in her face. Now she sat in the living room, nervously scrolling through posts on social media. Some strangers offered words of sympathy, but many comments were venomous. Accusations flew that she must have known about the mistress, or that she'd married Joshua only for his money. The cruelty from faceless usernames took her breath away. Meanwhile, outside their gated home, paparazzi and gossip reporters continued to stake out positions. They shouted invasive questions every time she or Joshua stepped outdoors. One persistent cameraman nearly caused an accident by blocking their driveway as Mariana attempted to visit her obstetrician. Fortunately, security intervened, but the scare left her shaking and close to tears. Joshua, determined to protect his wife, gathered his public relations team and braced for an onslaught of damage control. They coordinated with Elaine Robbins, who advised a carefully worded statement. "We understand the public's interest, but these allegations are fraught with inaccuracies. Mr. Ellington has already taken legal steps against extortion attempts. We ask for privacy as Miss S. Ellington focuses on her health and pregnancy." While the PR statement addressed Nicole's claims, it didn't entirely dismantle the swirling rumors. After all, the proof of Joshua's past involvement with Nicole couldn't be erased. Photographs, bank statements, and the Cloverdale house purchase were tangible evidence that tabloids feasted on. As if orchestrating a final act of drama, Nicole then appeared on a low-budget online talk show, her face partially hidden behind dark sunglasses. She tearfully depicted herself as a victim of Joshua's broken promises. She implied she had tried to protect Mariana by revealing the affair, twisting the narrative in her favor. Although she offered no new evidence, her crocodile tears and emphatic declarations kept the scandal alive for another news cycle. With the media scrutiny at its height, Joshua's business partners grew skittish. A major investor threatened to pull funding from one of his tech ventures, citing reputation risks. Joshua spent late nights calling board members, pleading his case and reassuring them that the crisis was under control. Mariana watched him from afar, pacing the floor, hair disheveled, voice thick with desperation. She could sense the weight of his guilt, yet she couldn't forget the pain he had caused her. Richard and Angela tried to offer moral support, but even their unwavering loyalty couldn't lessen the constant tension in the household. Mariana had once taken pride in her composed demeanor, yet these relentless attacks and public humiliations took a severe toll on her. The baby's health was her primary concern, and in private moments she cradled her belly and whispered comforting words to the life growing within her, promising a future free from the toxicity of scandal. In a rare moment of calm, Joshua and Mariana found themselves alone in the study. He turned off his phone, silencing the constant stream of alerts and calls. "I'm so sorry," he said, voice low and strained. "If I could change everything, I would." For the first time in weeks, Mariana saw unguarded remorse in his eyes. She took a shaky breath. Part of her wanted to scream at him for destroying their peace, but another part recognized his desperation to make things right. The final tipping point came when a respected mainstream news outlet announced plans for an exclusive expose on the Ellington scandal. That was when Mariana realized the only option left might be to confront the situation head on. No more half measures, no more hoping it would fade. Together, she and Joshua decided to cooperate fully with Elaine and the crisis team, collecting every piece of evidence of Nicole's blackmail to present if necessary. They knew the coming days would be among the toughest they had ever faced, but if they had any chance of salvaging their life, or at least safeguarding their unborn child, they would have to stand united against the storm. Elaine's crisis management team swung into action, issuing a brief statement. Joshua Ellington categorically denies ongoing involvement with Miss Rivers and is taking appropriate legal steps regarding false statements and extortion attempts. The statement also requested privacy for Mariana, who was pregnant. It wasn't a full-blown press conference, but it was enough to shift some public sympathy toward Mariana. The statement didn't stop Nicole from doubling down, though. She appeared on a trashy online talk show, claiming she had receipts, though she declined to show them on air. It was more theatre than truth, but enough to keep gossip mills churning. One afternoon, Mariana scrolled through social media, heart pounding. She found vile comments blaming her for not satisfying her husband or accusing her of being a gold digger. Some voices defended her, empathizing with her pregnancy and pointing out Nicole's inconsistencies. The chaos felt overwhelming, a digital wildfire she couldn't control. Ironically, the scandal forced Mariana and Joshua to communicate more than they had in months. Late at night, they'd strategize about how to handle the next wave of rumors, how to shield their child from future taunts. Joshua made an effort to be present for her doctor's appointments, clasping her hand, whispering apologies. Still, the ghost of betrayal lingered. Mariana's mind returned to the day she saw the Cloverdale house. She'd believed her husband was the rock in her life. Now, despite his attempts at redemption, she questioned whether the scars of this ordeal would ever truly heal. Days stretched into weeks. Each morning, Mariana woke up, bracing for fresh headlines. But, slowly, the media frenzy began to fade. Other scandals and celebrity dramas took center stage. Nicole's last-ditch efforts to sell her story for a bigger payout didn't gain traction once it became clear she had little solid proof of her more extravagant claims. Meanwhile, the sale of the Cloverdale property finally went through, severing one more tie to that dark chapter. Joshua took a financial hit, selling it at a discount to expedite the process. Yet, for the first time in months, Mariana sensed a faint light at the end of the tunnel. One afternoon, Elaine summoned them for an update. "My team and I have been in contact with Miss Rivers' attorney," she began. "She's agreed to sign a settlement and non-disclosure agreement in exchange for a modest sum." She shot Joshua a stern look. "It's still money going out, but less than it could have been if this dragged on. She'll be legally barred from speaking publicly about you beyond what's already been said." Joshua glanced at Mariana, guilt apparent in his eyes. "I'll pay whatever it takes to end this," he sighed, "as long as we can move forward." Mariana felt torn. The idea of paying Nicole felt like enabling her deceit, but she also longed for peace. After a tense discussion, they agreed to proceed. With each signature and stamped seal, Nicole's hold on their lives loosened. Yet, even as the final paperwork was signed, Mariana knew the real question remained. Could she and Joshua rebuild what was lost? That evening, after returning from Elaine's office, Mariana found herself sitting in the nursery. Joshua had painted it a soft lavender color, a hue they once agreed was calming. She ran her fingers along the edge of a half-assembled crib, feeling both hope and sorrow. Joshua appeared in the doorway, hesitating for a moment. "We're finally free of Nicole's threats," he said softly. "So why do I feel like we're still so far apart?" Mariana studied him. "Because trust doesn't magically return once the crisis ends," she replied, voice gentle but firm. "We've been through a lot, and it's going to take more than legal settlements to heal." He nodded. "I understand. And I'm willing to do the work. Counseling, therapy, whatever you need." The suggestion of therapy echoed in Mariana's mind. She had read about couples who reconciled after affairs through intensive counseling, but she was skeptical. Would rehashing every painful detail help or hurt her more? Yet she nodded slowly. "All right, we can try counseling, but promise me no more secrets." Joshua walked to her, gently cradling her hands in his. "I promise," he said. A hint of sincerity shone in his eyes, a longing to repair the damage. They stood amid the nursery's soft pastels, their unborn baby an unseen witness to their vow. In that moment, Mariana realized that while the pain might never fully vanish, this child deserved two parents who at least tried to find a path forward, together or apart, but grounded in honesty. They began attending sessions with Dr. Marcia Feldman, a renowned couples therapist specializing in high-stakes marital conflict. Her office was a tranquil space, walls adorned with minimalist art. The first few sessions were rocky. Mariana battled resentment and sadness, while Joshua wrestled with guilt and shame. They recounted events, each from their own perspective. "Let's focus on feelings, not just actions," Dr. Feldman advised. "Mariana, how did Joshua's betrayal make you feel at your core?" Mariana inhaled sharply. "Unworthy, humiliated, terrified. Like I never really mattered if he could do that to me." Joshua winced. "I'm sorry," he said, voice trembling. "I never wanted you to feel that way." In another session, Dr. Feldman pressed Joshua on why he'd pursued an affair in the first place. At first, he repeated his story of reconnecting with an old friend, but under her guidance, he admitted deeper issues. "I was insecure, constantly chasing success, afraid of failure. When Nicole showed me admiration, it fed my ego. I didn't think about the consequences until it was too late." Gradually, through tears and halting confessions, they began to peel back the layers of hurt. Outside of therapy, they practiced small gestures of rebuilding trust, shared dinners without phones, moments where they simply talked or walked around the neighborhood. While Mariana still felt pangs of doubt, she began to see glimpses of the man she'd once adored. The question remained whether these fragile steps could lead to genuine reconciliation or if the scars ran too deep. As the weeks passed, Mariana's belly grew, and so did a cautious sense of hope. Each night, she felt the baby moving more vigorously, a comforting reminder of the life that bound her and Joshua together. Therapy sessions continued, and while not every moment was smooth, they began weaving the threads of mutual understanding. Angela and Richard, initially skeptical, saw changes in Joshua's demeanor. He became more attentive, not just in grand gestures, but in everyday kindnesses, like preparing Mariana's favorite tea before bedtime or massaging her feet after a long day. He started planning a small, intimate baby shower, making sure every detail reflected Mariana's tastes. Soon the day of the shower arrived, a modest gathering at their home with close friends and family. Though subdued compared to the glitzy parties they once threw, it felt more genuine, a testament to the ties that truly mattered. Angela gave a short toast, acknowledging the struggles Mariana had faced and expressing hope for a brighter future. Even Mariana's father, once so furious, patted Joshua on the back, a silent gesture of tentative acceptance. Later that night, Mariana found herself alone in the nursery, gazing at the gifts and the little onesies hanging in the closet. Joshua walked in, silently placing a hand on her shoulder. They locked eyes. A gentle smile formed on Mariana's lips. There was no denying the pain they'd endured, nor the work that lay ahead. But for the first time in months, she felt ready to walk that path wherever it might lead, hand in hand with the father of her child. The story of Mariana Ellington and Joshua reminds us that even in the face of devastating betrayal, there may be room for redemption, healing, and fresh beginnings. Like any winding path, their journey was filled with heartbreak, confrontation, and moments that tested their very limits. Yet through therapy, honesty, and the unwavering motivation of impending parenthood, they discovered that a love once broken can sometimes mend into a shape more resilient than before. If you found this story gripping and meaningful, please let me know your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more riveting real-life drama and fiction that explores the depths of human relationships and emotions. Your support helps keep these stories alive, and I can't wait to share even more with you soon. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for the next story.